So you might have noticed in that intro video, I was getting all these different modal sounds while only playing the Ionian shape. How did I do that? It boils down to 3 steps really. You take any mode shape you like and you count through the modes. So for example in Ionian, the 3rd scale degree would be your Phrygian note. And then you just line up that note with your target root note, and then you can use that Ionian shape to get a Phrygian sound. And you can repeat the same process with all of your modal shapes, which is what we're going to get into today. And as always, there's a PDF to accompany this lesson that's available for free. Just click on the link in the description. So first off, we're just going to take our Ionian shape. Doesn't matter where we start it, but for the sake of this video, we'll start it on the 5th fret. So A Ionian or A major. And what we're going to do is just play each note in the scale, and we're going to count up our modes, and then we're going to assign the note in the scale to that mode. So first off, we have Ionian. Now our 2nd note is going to be Dorian. Our 3rd note is going to be Phrygian. Our 4th note is going to be Lydian. Our 5th note is going to be Mixolydian. Our 6th note is going to be Aeolian. And our 7th note is going to be Locrian, the half diminished scale. And then we get back to the 1st degree again. So if I go through that a bit quicker, we have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Now here's where the magic happens. So let's say I wanted to use that Ionian shape to play Dorian, which is the 2nd note in that shape. And let's say I wanted to play it in the key of A. What I would do is take that note with D in it, the Dorian note, and line it up with our A root note on the E string. So our A note is on the 5th fret, and what I'm going to do is line up that 2nd scale degree with that D note. So I'm going to put my middle finger on it because that's how I would play it within the scale shape. And now if I play my Ionian shape in this area of the fretboard, it's going to give me an A Dorian sound if I'm playing over an A backing track. So I'll quickly loop an A chord and you'll see what I mean. Now if I line up that 2nd scale degree or the D note in that Ionian shape with my A, I'm going to get an A Dorian sound. Cool, you'll notice how I got that A Dorian sound just by doing that. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that just G Ionian? Because I'm starting it from that 3rd fret. And the answer would be yes. A Dorian and G Ionian are relative modes. They share the exact same notes. It's all about the context that you use it that will determine what mode it is. That context meaning the key of the song. So let's try that exact same thing in a different key. Let's say I wanted to play C Dorian. So we've already done the first step. We've identified which note in the Ionian shape is our Dorian note. It's a 2nd scale degree. Now I just have to find a C note on the E string and then line up that 2nd note in the scale with that C note. So I know a C note is on the 8th fret here on the E string. So I'm going to put my middle finger there because that's my Dorian note within the Ionian shape. And then I play my Ionian shape here and I'm going to get a C Dorian sound. And the relative major, or the relative Ionian scale, would be B flat major. Now if I play that in a song in the key of C, I've got a loop here, and I play that shape. I get my C Dorian sound. Hopefully you're following so far, but we are going to do a few more examples, so don't worry if you're feeling a bit confused. So let's try use our Ionian shape, and we're going to get our Lydian sound. So again, I'm just going to start my shape anywhere, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to count up my modes with each scale degree. So Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian. Okay, so to use my Ionian shape to get a Lydian sound, I need to line up that 4th note, or that 1st note on the A string of the shape, with my target key. So let's say I wanted to play in C Lydian. Step 1 is now I have to find my C root note on the A string because the Lydian note within that scale shape fell on the A string. So I'm going to find my C note on the A string, which I know is the 3rd fret, and then I line up that note within the scale shape with that C, and build it around there, and now I would be getting a C Lydian sound if I were to be playing this in the key of C. So I've got a C chord progression in the background, and I'm going to play my scale built around that C Lydian note. Now I'm getting a C Lydian sound from that Ionian shape. Let's try one more example. Let's say I wanted to get E Lydian. So first step is I got to find an E note on the A string. Again, because that L note or the Lydian note was on the A string. So I have to match that. So I know that an E note is the 7th fret on the A string. So if I build my Ionian shape around that, I'm going to get E Lydian. Okay, let's do one more example. So let's say I want to get an Aeolian sound with that Ionian shape. Again, I just start my shape anywhere I want to begin with, count through the scale degrees and the mode names. So I got Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian. Okay, so Aeolian is the 6th note in the scale, or like the pinky note on the A string. So now I have to line up that pinky note with the target root note on the A string. So let's say I wanted A Aeolian. Step 1 is I find an A note on the A string, and I'm going to go up the octave here, so that 12th fret. And the next step is that I need to line up that note in the shape that has the A in it with that A note, not my first finger. So I'm going to put my pinky there, because that would be the 6th degree in that scale shape, and this will give me an Aeolian sound in the key of A. But that is how you use the Ionian shape to get a whole bunch of different modal sounds. So you find the scale degree that correlates with the target mode, and then you just line up that scale degree with your new target key, whether that's on the E, A, or even D string. Now this process works with every modal shape you know, whether it's your Dorian shape, Phrygian, Mixolydian, whatever. It works with all of them. You just repeat the same process of playing each scale degree and counting through the modes. The only difference being is that you start counting from the mode that your scale shape is. So for example, if I wanted to use my Dorian shape to play Lydian, first step is I just play my Dorian shape anywhere. So I would start on Dorian this time instead of Ionian because it's my Dorian shape. And then I count through the scale degrees. So Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian. So this pinky note on the E string is my Lydian note. So if I wanted to play an E Lydian, for example, I find an E on the E string and I'll go up to this octave on the 12th fret and I line up that pinky note in the Dorian shape or the 3rd note on the E string with it. And then I build my shape around that and I'll be getting E Lydian. Cool, so I got an E Lydian sound doing that. Now if I wanted to get a Phrygian sound using my Dorian shape, I just count through the modes. So Dorian, Phrygian. Okay, that 2nd note on the E string is my Phrygian note. So I line it up with my E note if I wanted E Phrygian, and then I get the mode I want. Right, you get the idea. Now let's say I wanted to use my Dorian shape to get Mixolydian. Again, I just count through all my modes, starting on Dorian if I'm using the Dorian shape. So Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. So my Mixolydian note is the 1st note on the A string in that shape. So again, this is very important. I now have to find my target root note on the A string because that is the string that that mode was corresponding with in that Dorian shape. So I find my E note on the A string, which I know is the 7th fret, and then I can play my Dorian shape around that to get my Mixolydian sound. So there I was getting my Mixolydian mode by using my Dorian shape. So quick recap, you take a modal shape that you like, let's say Phrygian for example, and I count through the modes while I play each scale degree, and I make sure I start from the mode that my shape is. So in Phrygian, it would be starting with Phrygian, and then Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, Dorian, Ionian. Then I just line up whatever mode I'm targeting with whatever shape I'm using with my new root note, and that will give you the desired sound. And by doing this, you can use any shapes to play any mode, and it gives you a whole lot of freedom. So hopefully that was helpful, and make sure to download the PDF because I have all of this written down for every shape so you know which note within the shape to line up with the target mode, and it should help clear things up if you are a bit confused. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.